list the zeros. It's going to be P over Q. Well, it's always going to be the factors of this. So it's going to be plus or minus 1 and plus or minus 3. But then you've got all the factors of 48. Okay? Well, so plus or minus 1 over plus or minus 3 all over. Now there's a ton of them. So plus or minus, I'm going to go with 2. And plus or minus 3, plus or minus 4, plus or minus 6, plus or minus 8, plus or minus 12, plus or minus, and we could keep going, but this is the one that I've worked out ahead of time, definitely. And I'm going to show you another method. So just to kind of list a few, because a few of these that I've got here, we've got plus or minus 1/2, plus or minus 1/3, plus or minus 3/2, plus or minus 3/4, and plus or minus 1/6. Okay? So if we've got 1 over 2, 1 over 3, 1 over 4, I skipped the 1/4. This is the one where I'm skipping a few. Okay? Now what I want to show you, and I'm going to get out the graphing calculators when we do this, is I want to show you how to use the graphing calculator to help you find the zeros. Because sometimes it's really tough if you just have to try all these out. It gets to be really tough, and this is where we have some technology that I want you to be able to use. So what I've done is I have put into my y equals, I've got two equations in here, and I'm going to zoom in a bit. The first one I've got, don't look at the second one because that's for the next problem actually. This first one I've got 48x cubed plus 4x squared minus 20x, and if you arrow over, you'll see I've got the rest of the equation in there, plus 3. Okay, so that's the whole equation, and I've plugged that into the y equals. Okay, so if you first turn on your calculator, you see this, you hit your y equals, yours will be blank hopefully, and then you just input your equation. Okay, and now I'm going to press graph. But first, before I press graph, I want to go to zoom. Okay, we're going to zoom standard. That's the first screen you want to do, because zoom standard is going to be from -10 to +10 on both axes. Okay, now you can see the graph, it appeared there. It's not very easy to see. Everywhere where it crosses the x-axis, it's very close together. So I want to zoom in. I want to change my window to make it so I can see it a little better, especially right in here. So I'm going to change my y minimum, or my x minimum, to about -3, maybe -2, not -3, and my x maximum to +2. So I'm just going to press window, and I'm going to do that. X minimum to -3, maximum to 2, and then graph it again. And where you see it crossing the x-axis, so that's that mess in the middle. When I zoom in and look at it closer, there it is. Okay? Now, where it crosses the x-axis, those are my zeros. Okay? I don't see it crossing right on one of my tick marks, because there's +1, there's -1. It's not right on any of them. So what I want to do is I want to find one. And then I'm going to do synthetic division and divide by it. So let's say, oh, those could be just about anything. Let's look at this one. Okay, I'm going to take a guess that that's about -3/4. -3/4 is what we're going to divide by. Bring down the 48, 3/4 times that's -36. Bring that down as 32, -32. Multiply 32, 3/4 times 32 is 24. Okay, so it's positive because it's a negative times a negative, so that's positive. Bring down or add at this point, so that's 4. 4 times -3/4 is -3, and we got our 0. That's exactly what we were trying to find. So -3/4 was a 0. And that left us with 48x squared when we do this division minus 32x plus 4. And now we set that equal to 0. And now let's see if we can factor this out. But first of all, first thing I see here is I've got, oh, these are all divisible by 4. 4 was not a greatest common factor of our original polynomial, but of this one it is. So here I can divide everything by 4. So when we divide everything by 4, that's going to leave us with 12x squared minus 8x plus 1 equals 0. Now, here is where that other factoring method helps you. If you take 12 times 1, of course that's 12. And then what are the factors of 12 that will add to 8? Well, that's 6 and 2. Now, if we divide by, remember the 12x and the 12x? This tells me the denominator is what's going to get the x. So here this is going to be 1 over 2x, and this will be 1 over 6x. So here's your binomials. These are your binomials. And they both have to be negative. So we're going to have 2x minus 1 and 6x minus 1 equal to 0. Okay? Now when you set each one of those equal to 0, you're going to end up with 2x minus 1 equals 0. So x equals 1/2. And then 6x minus 1 equals 0. So x equals 1/6. Okay, so our zeros in this case, they're rational, but none of them were integers. So the zeros for this polynomial are negative 3/4, 1/2, and 1/6. Okay, one more problem. All right, for this one, what we're going to do is use the graphing calculator again. And you can see, maybe you remember from a minute ago, but I had both of them in there. Now I'm just changing which one I'm going to graph. Now I'm going to go back to my Zoom standard so I can see the graph. Okay, so I've got all these spots where it crossed the x-axis. Those are my zeros. Okay, so now I'm going to find out where they are by looking a little closer. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to change my y, or my x minimum to like -5 and my maximum to 3, I think. And look at the graph again. Okay, I'm looking at it a little closer. It looked like it crossed right there at 2. So I'm going to plug in and I'm going to see if, or -2 I should say. So I'm going to do synthetic division and see if it works. So synthetic division at -2. I've got 2, 5, -18, -19, and 42. Okay, bring down the 2. 2 times -2 is -4. That's 1, -2. That's -20. -20 times 2 is 42. That's 21. That's -42. Oh, it worked. Very good. Okay, so -2 is a rational root, or it is a 0, I should say. So here's my zeros. I didn't list out the possible zeros. There aren't as many as the last problem, but there still are quite a few. But I know -2 is a 0. And here's the thing. The quotient when I divide by the -2 is 2x cubed plus x squared minus 20x plus 21. So now this is my new quotient. So if I can find another 0, I can divide this by it, because a 0 of this actually has to be a 0 of that. Okay, so this is where I'm gonna we're gonna go back to here, and we're gonna look. We're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna pick from my list. If I'd have made my list, it would be nice. But I'm going to tell you right now, that one right there is probably 3/2. If you can see that, that one is probably 3/2. Most likely yes, because definitely I know the answers this time. We're going to get those worked out. So let's do 3/2. And let's divide this one by 3/2. So now I'm going to do synthetic division on this, and I'm going to go with 3/2. So it's 2, 1, negative 20, and 21. Bring down the 2. 3/2 times 2 is 3. Add, that's 4. 3/2, oh, here I am in a hurry again. 3/2, oh no, that was right. I'm losing my mind. Okay, 3/2 times 2 is 3, so that's 4. 3/2 times 4 is 6, so this is going to be negative 14. Negative 14 times 3/2 is negative 21. I should have known that. And 0. So there's that one. So 3/2 is another 0. And that's going to leave us with 2x squared plus 4x minus 14 equals 0. We'll divide all of that by 2. Okay, divide everything by 2 because that's your greatest common factor. And with that division, that's going to leave us with x squared plus 4x, plus 2x minus 7 equals 0. Now there are no factors of 7 that'll subtract to 2. So this one doesn't factor, and you have to use the quadratic formula. And when you do use the quadratic formula, I'm not going to do that for you now, but when you do use the quadratic formula, you'll find that negative 1 plus or minus 2 square roots of 2 is your final set of zeros.